In this video, we're going to do some coverage and review of some of the basics of the coordinate plane. First, we're going to talk about the distance between 2 points. So if we have 2 points in the coordinate plane, let's call them x1, y1, x2, y2. Well, to find this distance in between, what we do is we can come up with a right triangle, and the distance along the horizontal leg of this triangle we would say is x2 minus x1. The distance here along the vertical is y2 minus y1. We're going to call the hypotenuse d. Now if we use the Pythagorean Theorem, we would say d squared equals, well, one of the legs, y2 minus y1. Actually, I'm going to write this as x2 minus x1 squared. So it's just this leg down here plus this leg over here, so y2 minus y1 squared. Now that's great, but we really want to know what the distance is. So to find the distance, we need to take the square root of both sides here. So we end up with d equal to the square root of x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared, and that's all under the radical. So there we go, there's the distance formula. And when we're taking a square root, sometimes we think we need a plus or minus there, but because we're talking about distance, this distance will always be a positive value, so only the positive. And then to find the midpoint between these 2 points, well, we want to know, what is this point right here? Well, all we do to find the middle of two values is it's like we find their average. So the average of the x's, we'll say x2 plus x1 divided by 2, right? When we're finding the average, we add them together and divide by 2. And then we add the y coordinates together and divide by 2. So here's a pretty straightforward example. We have finding the distance between these 2 points, also find the midpoint. So for the distance, we're going to say x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. Let's call negative 2 x sub 1, y sub 1 for 5, and then x sub 2, y sub 2 for those 2 points. So we're just going to plug everything in. So d equals square root x2 is 3 minus negative 2 there, and then we square that, plus y2 is negative 4 minus 5 squared. So working this down, we end up getting a distance of square root 106, and 106 cannot be simplified at all. For the midpoint, we just say the average of the points, x2, well, let me be consistent, x1 plus x2 divided by 2, comma, y1 plus y2 divided by 2. So I'm just going to plug in the values from the coordinates. And what we're going to end up with is 1/2, and 5 plus negative 4 also 1/2. So the midpoint is just that, it's a point. So we need an x coordinate and a y coordinate. This example is a little bit more involved, but still using these same ideas of the distance formula and the midpoint. So we have these 3 points, and we want to know these 3 points, what kind of triangle do they make up? So there's the triangle. We have A at negative 4, 4, B at 4, 5, and C at 0, negative 2. So these 3 options for the triangle, scalene, isosceles, or equilateral, well, those are all based on the lengths of the triangle. So a scalene triangle, all 3 sides are different lengths. Isosceles is 2 lengths that are the same, and then an equilateral, all 3. So what we need to do is we need to find the distance between points A, B, this is C down here, the distance between B and C, and then the distance between A and C, and compare those distances. So we'll go ahead and do that. So working through and finding the distance of each side of the triangle, we see that 2 of the sides, AB and BC, are the same, but AC not equal. So because 2 of the sides are equal, this is an isosceles triangle.